My name is Devin. I'm 32, work in IT consulting, and until recently, I thought I understood what family meant. I grew up thinking you stick together, that loyalty and love would be returned if given freely. Turns out, when you're the one always giving, people stop seeing you as family and start seeing you as a utility, a safety net, a walking ATM. And for years, that's exactly what I let myself become. It started after college. I was the first in our family to graduate, the only one to land a job that paid more than minimum wage, and definitely the only one with a reliable car and a credit score over 600. My parents were proud, at first. I remember my mom crying at my graduation, hugging me so tight I could barely breathe. My dad clapped me on the back and said, "You're gonna lift this family up, son." At the time, I thought it was just a proud father's wish. I didn't realize it was a prophecy I was expected to fulfill. My sister, Jade, was 22 then. She had dropped out of community college for the second time and spent most of her days scrolling through Instagram and talking about becoming an influencer. She never had a steady job, never paid rent. My parents enabled it, said she was finding herself. But when the bills came up short, they weren't asking Jade to chip in. It was always me. At first, it was small things. A few hundred here for the electric bill. A little extra to help out with groceries when I came to visit. Then it was the car. Their old one broke down, and I was guilted into co-signing a lease. "It's not for fun," my mom insisted. "We just need to get to doctor appointments and the store." Jade was the one driving it within a week. She used it to pick up her friends and post stories of brunch runs, while mom texted me reminders about the insurance payments. Still, I kept paying. Why? Because I love them. Because I thought that's what good sons do. I figured they'd do the same for me if roles were reversed. That belief kept me going through years of drained savings, missed vacations, and putting off moving into my own place because I was still helping them with theirs. My friends would nudge me sometimes, especially Mark, my best friend since high school, saying things like, "Dude, you're not their retirement plan," or "Why is Jade living rent-free while you're covering everything?" I'd laugh it off, tell them they didn't understand. But the turning point came last December. I'd just started dating someone seriously, Tasha. She's a nurse, smart, grounded, with this calm energy that made me feel like maybe I could finally have something just for me. She never judged, but she asked questions. Logical ones. Like why my parents were still on my phone plan. Why I was paying for Jade's car insurance when she'd gotten 2 speeding tickets I hadn't even heard about. And why, when I mentioned wanting to visit my aunt out in Arizona, I said I couldn't afford the time off. Not because of work, but because I needed to cover my parents' heating bill for the month. It was New Year's Eve when I asked them, for the first time in years, for something in return. Tasha's hospital was hosting a formal event, and she wanted me to come with her. She was working a double the next day and wouldn't be able to prep her place for the dog sitter. I figured I'd ask my parents to watch her little beagle, Marlo, just for one night. I'd bring over the food, the bed, even offer to drop him off and pick him up. Jade loved dogs. I thought it was an easy ask. I called home. Mom answered. "Hey, Ma. I was wondering if you or Jade could watch Tasha's dog tomorrow. Just overnight. He's super chill. Won't be any trouble." There was silence for a second. Then a laugh. "Oh, Devin. We're not here to serve you." I blinked. "What?" "You're always asking for little things," she continued, her tone sharp now. "Why don't you tell your girlfriend to handle her own problems? Or take the dog with you?" "I've never asked for anything," I said, still stunned. "I pay your rent, your internet, and we're grateful, but don't throw it in our face," she snapped. "You chose to help. That doesn't mean we're your servants. We raised you, Devin. Isn't that worth something?" I didn't say anything. I just ended the call and sat there staring at the screen. My hands were shaking. For years, I had justified every payment, every favor, every sacrifice as something I did out of love. But in that moment, it hit me. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a resource, a backup plan, a button they could press labeled "Solve Problem." And the moment I needed them for something small, I was an inconvenience. That night, I made a decision I probably should have made years ago. The next morning, I woke up early and logged into every account. Rent payment? Canceled. Utility autopays? Disabled. Jade's car insurance? Removed. The phone plan? Split. I texted them, short and polite. letting them know they'd need to set up their own accounts, that I wouldn't be paying for anything going forward. No explanation, no fight, just a clear, quiet boundary. They didn't respond immediately. I think they assumed I was bluffing, that maybe I'd cool off and resume payments like I always had. But by the third of the month, the calls started. First it was Mom, then Dad, then Jade. I didn't pick up. I didn't respond. I needed space, and they needed a reality check. By the fifth, there were voicemails. Some angry, some pleading. "We're going to lose the apartment," Mom cried in one. "Your father's on medication. How are we supposed to afford the copays?" In another, Jade snapped. "You're punishing us for one comment? Grow up, Devin." I stayed quiet. Then, on a rainy Thursday night, just as I was finishing up a late project and Tasha was warming leftovers in the kitchen, I heard a knock at the door. Not a soft knock. A pounding, desperate one. When I opened it, they were standing there. All three of them. Soaked from the rain, eyes puffy, Mom's mascara smudged like she'd been crying for hours. Dad looked like he hadn't shaved in days. Jade was holding a plastic folder, her mouth twisted in something between a grimace and a pout. "We need to talk," Mom said, her voice cracking. I crossed my arms and didn't move from the doorway. That's when she said it. "Please, Devin. We're sorry. We didn't mean it. Just help us. Please." And just as I was about to respond, Tasha stepped into the hallway behind me. Calm, silent, watching. I looked from her, to them, back to the folder Jade was clutching like a shield. That's when I asked, "What's in the folder?" And that's where everything started to unravel. Jade hesitated, her knuckles whitening around the plastic folder. She glanced at Mom, who gave her a small nod, then back at me. Slowly, she extended it toward me like it was some sort of peace offering. I didn't reach for it right away. I just looked her in the eyes and asked again, quieter this time. "What's in the folder?" Her voice came out thin. "It's just some paperwork. Bills. Notices." I took it and stepped back into the apartment without saying anything, flipping it open under the light by the door. Inside were a stack of unpaid rent warnings, a final shut-off notice for the electricity, and a letter from the leasing office, dated just yesterday, that their tenancy was being terminated at the end of the month unless the balance was paid in full. It wasn't a small amount. They owed nearly $3,000. Behind me, I could feel Tasha shift her weight, quietly stepping away to give me space. She didn't need to hear the details. She could already guess. I stood there for a moment, flipping through the papers slowly. One of the letters was a credit card statement. Jade had charged hundreds at some online boutique. New clothes, makeup, something labeled VIP event access. "You're still shopping?" I asked, raising the page. Jade flushed. "That was before we knew you canceled everything. So you were still using the money when you thought you were going to keep getting it." I shook my head, then looked at my mom. "You told me you weren't here to serve me. Remember that." Her face crumpled. "Devin, I was upset. I didn't mean it. We were just." "You weren't upset," I said, my voice firmer than I expected. "You were entitled. You thought I'd keep paying no matter what. You thought I owed it to you because you fed me and clothed me when I was a kid, like that wasn't your job as a parent." Dad finally spoke. "Son, we're not trying to fight. We're just scared. Things got tight. We didn't expect you to drop everything so suddenly." "I didn't drop everything," I said. "I just stopped letting you drop everything on me." There was a long silence. Rain pattered against the hallway window. My parents looked exhausted, not just from the weather, but from finally being forced to face something they'd been avoiding for years. I should have felt sorry for them. Maybe part of me did. But mostly, I felt free. "I'm not heartless," I said after a while. "I'll help where I can. But not like before. Not without boundaries. And not if Jade keeps acting like she's owed a lifestyle she hasn't earned." Jade looked like she wanted to argue, but Mom held up a hand. "We get it. We messed up." "Yeah," I said, turning the folder back over to them. "You did." And just as I was about to send them back into the rain, Jade's phone buzzed, loud in the stillness. She checked it, then her eyes went wide. "Mom, the power just got cut off." I froze. She turned the screen toward me, an automated message from the energy company. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 9:03 p.m. "They cut it exactly 3 minutes after closing time," Jade whispered. Tasha stepped back into the hallway then, holding 2 mugs of tea. She didn't say anything, just stood beside me, supportive but silent. My parents looked at me again. Their son. The one they dismissed as asking too much the one time he needed something. Now they were outside my apartment, shivering, desperate, and humiliated. And I realized this was it. The moment the roles had fully reversed. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Because what I said next would change everything. I stood there in the doorway, the folder still in my hand, their faces pale and pleading in the hallway. My mom shifted her weight, dripping rainwater onto the floor. Dad looked smaller than I'd ever seen him, like a balloon slowly losing air. Jade kept staring at her phone, like if she refreshed it enough times, the lights would magically come back on. They were waiting for me to speak, to make it all go away with one sentence, one wire transfer, one return to the old Devin who'd fix everything. But I wasn't that Devin anymore. Still, I didn't want to punish them. I wasn't out for revenge, not exactly. What I wanted was accountability, honesty, even just an ounce of acknowledgement for what they'd done, for what they'd taken from me. I exhaled slowly, feeling the heat of Tasha beside me, grounding me. "You can come inside," I said finally, just to warm up. "Tasha, is that okay?" She nodded gently. "Of course." They shuffled in, dripping and quiet. Mom kept her arms cross-tight over her chest. Jade kicked off her soaked shoes at the door. Tasha handed them each a mug of tea like it was the most natural thing in the world. My dad looked like he wanted to say thank you, but the words caught in his throat. We all sat in the living room, the room lit only by the soft overhead light and the ambient glow from Tasha's little Himalayan salt lamp in the corner. I stayed standing. "You're behind on everything," I said. "Not just the rent. There's credit card debt, car insurance, medical bills." Mom looked down. "It piled up faster than we thought." "No," I said. "It piled up because you got comfortable. You thought you had a cushion. Me. And you stopped trying." Jade rolled her eyes. "Okay, we get it. You're mad. Can we skip the lecture and talk about how to fix this?" I turned to her, eyebrows raised. "Fix this? Like how I've been fixing it for the last 8 years." She shrugged, biting her lip. "Jade," I said, voice low, "you're 29. You've never held a job longer than 6 months. You spend your days taking selfies and selling discount makeup on Instagram. And you think I owe you another bailout?" Her jaw dropped slightly, as if I'd slapped her. "I don't think you owe me," she snapped. "I just think you're being dramatic. We're family. We help each other." "No," I said again, firmer this time. "I helped you. Constantly. You took. That's not the same." Dad cleared his throat, like he wanted to step in and smooth things over. "Devin, what she means is, look, we just want to find a way forward. Maybe we can set up a payment plan with the landlord. Or you could just pay this month, and then we can." "No," I said, cutting him off. "Not unless something changes." I turned to my mom. "You once said, 'We're not here to serve you.' And that really stuck with me. Because the truth is, I never asked to be served. I never even asked to be repaid. I just wanted to feel like part of the family, not the guy you call when something breaks. But that's all I ever became to you. Silence. Not a sound, not even from the hallway. "Devin," Mom finally whispered. "We didn't mean for it to be like that. We're sorry." I nodded, slowly, letting it sink in, but I wasn't letting them off the hook. "Not yet." "Then prove it," I said. "Jade, I want to see your resume. I want to see you apply to 5 jobs this week. Not tomorrow. Tonight. And I want proof." Jade blinked. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious." She scoffed, but one look from me and she deflated. "And you too." I turned to my parents. "No more excuses. I'll help you once, but on the condition that you meet with a financial counselor. I'll even pay for the first session. But after that, you're on your own." Mom and Dad exchanged a look. They hadn't expected boundaries. They'd expected tears and tea and everything going back to the way it was. But those days were gone. "Do that," I said, "and I'll cover the balance this one time. Just enough to stop the eviction. Not the shopping sprees. Not Jade's glam kit subscription. Not the takeout receipts I saw in that folder. Just rent and lights. That's it." Jade opened her mouth, but Mom touched her arm and shook her head. "We'll do it," she said softly. "We'll try." I watched her closely, trying to gauge whether this was real or just performance. I didn't know yet, but I knew one thing. I finally had the power in this dynamic. And for once, I wasn't afraid to use it. They finished their tea, thanked Tasha quietly, and left about an hour later with the folder clutched tight again in Jade's hands. I stood by the window, watching them get into their car. No words were spoken. The streetlights reflected off the rain-slick asphalt. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for them again. Then I saw a notification pop up on my phone. A screenshot. It was Jade, sending me proof of the first job application. Nothing glamorous. A cashier job at a local grocery store. But it was something. A crack in the wall. I turned to Tasha. She was already looking at me. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I think I am." But the next morning, I got another notification. This one didn't come from Jade. It came from the leasing office. Apparently, someone else had tried to access my old payment account, and when it failed, they left a voicemail. Not for me, for the building manager. And what it said made my blood run cold. The voicemail wasn't meant for me, but the manager forwarded it to my email with a polite note. "Thought you'd want to hear this." I sat at my desk, coffee in hand, and hit play. It was my mom's voice, low, hurried, with that edge she got when she was trying to sound calm while being manipulative. "Hi, this is Carol James, apartment 3B. Look, our son, Devin, set up the payments for the rent, and we think he might have changed the info by accident. Could you just, switch it back to the previous card on file? The ending in 1294? He won't mind. We already spoke. Thanks so much." She hung up before she could be questioned. My jaw tightened. That card was canceled months ago. She'd clearly hoped the office had the old info saved somewhere and would just quietly relink it. I felt my stomach twist, not because of the money, but because she thought she could still play me like that. Thought she could go behind my back and sneak in a fix. No apology, no honesty, just the same old tactics. I forwarded the message to my own contact at the leasing office and included a short line. "This was not authorized. Please confirm that no changes have been made without my consent." Within minutes, I got a reply. They hadn't processed her request, but they appreciated the heads up and assured me everything would remain secure. I didn't call her right away. I wanted to see if she'd tell me about it on her own. That evening, she texted a smiley face emoji and asked how my day was. That was all. No mention of the voicemail. That was my last straw. The next morning, I sent out 3 emails, one to the leasing office, requesting they remove my name from any and all financial responsibility linked to the apartment. The second to the utility provider, informing them of the same. And the third? That one went to my lawyer, whom I'd already hired back in February when I started making my exit plan. I had him draft a formal agreement outlining that I would no longer be legally or financially responsible for any debts, expenses, or leases associated with my parents or sister, effective immediately. By that afternoon, they were served. The paper trail made it ironclad. No more manipulation. No more slipping my card onto their autopay. No more using my name to apply for help or extensions. They were on their own, officially, legally, and completely. That night, my phone rang. I ignored the first 3 calls. But the fourth? I picked up. "Devin, what is this?" My mom's voice trembled. "We got these documents. You're cutting us off permanently." "I thought I already had," I said calmly. "This is different. You made it legal. You didn't even tell us. You didn't tell me about trying to reconnect the rent card either," I replied. She stammered for a moment. "We were desperate." "No," I said. "You were sneaky. You didn't ask. You manipulated. There's a difference." She didn't deny it. She just started crying. "You can't do this, Devin. We're your family. You can't just turn your back on us." "I didn't turn my back," I said slowly. "I walked away. There's a difference." "But what about Jade?" she asked, like that was the magic phrase that would break me. "She's your sister." "She's a grown woman," I said. "She wants to live like a celebrity on someone else's dime. She can figure it out. Maybe that cashier job she applied to will call back. Maybe not. Either way, it's not my problem anymore." The silence on the other end was deafening. And then she said it. "You've changed." I nodded, though she couldn't see it. "I have. For the better." She hung up. Over the next few days, I blocked their numbers. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. I couldn't keep letting them drag me back into the same toxic cycle. I didn't hate them. I just couldn't help them anymore. Not if it meant destroying myself in the process. Tasha was supportive through all of it. She never said, "I told you so," never pushed me to go no contact. She just stood by me as I finally drew the line in the sand. A few weeks later, she surprised me with something small, A framed photo of the two of us at that New Year's Eve event we almost didn't go to. On the back, she'd written, "Boundaries are the first sign of love to yourself." I kept that on my desk. Meanwhile, my parents had to downsize. They moved into a smaller apartment in a less expensive part of town. Jade took a job at a call center. I found out through a mutual friend. Apparently, she's miserable, but she shows up to work on time. Maybe for the first time in her life. They never sent another message. Not after the legal cutoff. It was as if the moment I stopped being useful, they stopped being family. It hurt more than I'll ever admit out loud. I grieved. Not just for the family I lost, but for the illusion I clung to for years, that if I just gave enough, loved enough, provided enough, they'd eventually return the favor. They didn't. But I did something they never did. I chose peace over power. I chose healing over obligation. And in doing so, I built something better than family. I built a life that's mine. Tasha and I just signed a lease together. A quiet place on the edge of the city, with a little yard for Marlo to run around in. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not budgeting around someone else's emergencies. I still think about them sometimes. Wonder if they'll ever get it. If they'll look back and realize they didn't lose their son, they pushed him away. But I don't dwell. Because now, when I look at my bank account, my phone, my calendar, I see freedom. And for once, I don't feel like I'm living my life in service of someone else's comfort. I feel like me. Finally.